and they really don't care about the well-being of those cities, and they don't care about the civic life of those cities. And we have seen it going on a regular basis. And sometimes, of course, they elect the people who are going to be more palatable to those kinds of dealings. They don't want to read all that paperwork. They don't want to understand budgets. They just want to be there, they want to be elected, and they love the idea of being called the honorable. But very frankly, they aren't willing to roll up their sleeves and do the work. Bell is a perfect example of that, in which Rizzo and all of those people knew what they were doing and made sure that just the right people got elected, and people that they could pull the wool over their eyes, as they say, to finagle all that they have finagled. We see pieces and pieces of it coming out on a regular basis. Now, of course, the other part of it, and a contributing partner, was a lazy electorate. Okay, there were a couple of people, and you'll hear them speak, that were involved and were pointing fingers, but again, and trying their best to bring these issues out. But because they didn't have the financial power to carry it out, because they were overwhelming all of those candidates on a regular basis by pouring in all the special interest, and they're doing it today. Right now, in Bell, what is going on is you have, I think, special interest in every single candidate, there's no doubt. But there was a groundswell, and Nora's going to talk about a group of really civic-minded folks that got together and said, let's have a residents kind of campaign in which they will come to us and we will hopefully select the candidates that should run and so on. And they did a very good job in that regard. Myself and Hector de la Torre were a part of facilitating that kind of dialogue, and those candidates were selected. But now, as they're running, you have seen the financial money coming in from all the special interests. Right now, you have the police officers who are so intimidated that if they ask any questions about their budget, then heaven forbid they might get rid of them. And again, that may be the case, we don't know. Every city needs to have law enforcement, and so they need to figure out how they're going to get it and make it effective, but it's also going to be cost effective. And I think that anyone who is going to get elected has to make a determination as what's going to be best. I don't think they have to come in with a predisposed idea as to how they're going to handle it, but ask the questions, look at the budget, compare those budgets. That's about being well armed. And I know that for myself, being the first had an absolute responsibility. I think when I was the first Chicana in the state legislature, everyone was looking to me to see what I was going to do. And I think in particular, they were looking to see if I would fail. Because again, that was the standard at the time. Keep in mind that one man who opposed me when I was walking door to door said, I'm not going to vote for you. First of all, I'm not going to vote for a woman. Second of all, why would I want a woman to represent me? Because nobody will take you seriously. And I thought that was very valid, what he said. I thought he was being very honest and straightforward with me, because I think that that was true. And so I had a lot of proving to do, as I think all of you do in many of your career paths, is having to prove, you know, everyone else doesn't have to prove it, but because you're a Chicana Latina, you have to prove that you are equal to everybody who is sitting there. That just goes with the territory, unfortunately. But in the situation with us, it was also making sure that everything I did, you know, that I could, again, represent the interest of the community, that I represented it with honesty and integrity, and that's been a real significant and important issue for us. When you look at some of the antics that have been going on, whether it be Robles and Southgate, the nonsense that's gone on in Maywood, the catastrophe that's on its way in Montebello, and in many of these cities throughout the Southeast, and some of them in the San Gabriel Valley. I mean, it's not just Latinos, by the way. There was just one, I think is a councilman, one mayor who was just recently or indicted yesterday from Upland. It's happening across the board. But the point is that these are the folks that are willing to carry the water for those special interests. The predators walk away because, after all, they're just lawyers. I just wrote the contract. Oh, I just, you know, did this. And at the end of the day, they walk away. But if you look in Southgate, in Maywood, City of Commerce, in Bell Gardens, you see a lot of consistent names. And a lot of them have been a part of getting those contracts and doing what will, and pulling out money that's unbelievable. It's coming out in Bell because we're seeing it every single moment with many of the shenanigans. So the responsibility that we have as elected officials, and that you will have as a community or elected official, and whatever you serve in, is to ask questions and to maintain your integrity and ask for transparency and honesty in every step of the process, and never be intimidated of asking the question. When I came to the County Board of Supervisors, I had a lot to do and a lot to learn and a lot going on. But one of the things I didn't like is that we would sit in these meetings, there would be rubber stamps on all of these issues. And so I started asking some questions. And it used to be very annoying to my male colleagues on the board. One of the supervisors at the time chided me and said very clearly, "Supervisor Molina, it would be worthwhile for you to come prepared to the meetings." And I said, "Sir, I'm more than prepared, so why don't you answer the question?" Which he couldn't do. And you also have to be prepared to lose. When I took on the pension reform thing before the County Board of Supervisors, there was a lot of double dipping that was going on. If we would not have reformed our pension system way back then, we'd be in the same place the city of LA is in right now and the state of California is in. Right now, we are on very solvent and financial footing in the state, in the County of Los Angeles. We have a very, very good retirement program. But for the most part, for many of those reforms that we took then, I lost for 2 years on every single one of those issues. 2 solid years. I put it up pretty regularly. We tried all kinds of ways to get it passed. I lost regularly. But that didn't mean that I was wrong. Eventually, well, I was able to get one more supervisor to join with me once we pointed out how much money people were making. They were making more money in retirement than they were in working for the county and retiring at an early age. So once we started pointing all these things out, I think then clearly some of the supervisors, the little light went on and they said, well, we're going to support this. And since then, because we did that kind of pension reform back there, we don't have the problems today. So you have to be bold enough and have the courage to stand up to the special interest, stand up, ask questions, and of course you have to be prepared. I usually don't ask a question unless I know the answer. The reason is because you want to point out the fallacy of a policy or exactly the point that they're trying to make. And in many instances, there are many, many folks, whether it be in the county, the state, or anyone else, that is going to cover up for whatever it is they don't know or what may be the outcome of bad policy. So you need to be prepared to challenge in all of that. And I am hopeful that as we continue going through Bell, whoever is elected in the city of Bell or any of the Southeast cities, I still challenge them to be prepared, to be informed, to be courageous, to stand up to special interest, and more importantly, to engage the community. You must involve them. If they're asking you questions, you have to respond to their questions as well and allow full transparency. So the lessons that we will learn, hopefully, is what we should always know, to be firm, to be strong, and more importantly, that whether or not you're the elected official or whether you're the resident in that area, you must be an engaged voter. Do not let yourself. Right now, all of you are receiving beyond, if you live in the city of LA, my little mailbox every day is filled with all the, and the nonsense that is going on and saying, if I read that garbage and made decisions by that garbage in the attacks and all that's going on, I know that I would not know the candidates. You have to make the effort to listen to people, to ask questions, to engage them, to look where they're getting their money from, and whether in fact they're going to have the kind of integrity to, at the end of the day, represent me as an elected official. And those are the questions that we need to make sure is happening. So there's a lot to be learned, a lot that's still going on. I hope that at the end of the day, the new leadership that'll be elected in Bell will just be but a beginning. And so I look forward to those opportunities to really